Welcome to Active Love Adoptions Podcast. I'm your host, McKenzie Love. And today we have Mindy and Heidi co-hosting with me today.
Hello.
I said today twice. That's fine. Today. And we have Isaac here.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here.
I'm excited to be here.
Good. He's an adoptee, and he was actually adopted through Active Love. And you're the 12th child.
Yes, the baby.
Yes, the baby.
Yep.
And you were the only one that was adopted, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm excited to hear your story.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I know you had mentioned to me before that your mom actually wasn't looking to adopt.
Yeah, that's correct.
So, yeah, you want to start with that story?
Yeah, so originally I was supposed to be born in Charleston or in Salt Lake, but I was born in Charleston. And my mom knew a family, I think it was in close to where they lived.
Mm-hmm.
They had adopted as well through Active Love.
Yeah.
And it was a Saturday night. They were out to eat and they ran into that family and they're like, they were just talking because my mom at this point, she was probably 45. So she was older.
Yeah.
My sister's 5 years older than me. So she was grown up.
Yeah.
Well, not grown up all the way,
but out of diapers.
Yeah, exactly. And they came up to her and they were just kind of talking and she was like, hey, do you know anyone who wants to adopt? There's a baby that the family backed out. And she was like, oh, like, no, I don't know anyone. Like, and it didn't even cross her mind to adopt because, again, she was older.
Yeah.
Had a ton of kids already.
Yeah, 11, right?
Yeah, I already had a lot of little minions running around. So the thought she didn't even think of that being a possibility. Mm-hmm. And then after they left or whatever for dinner, my mom just said the thought of, adopting was stuck on her mind, the thought of me at least.
Yeah.
And for the next, she said like less than 24 hours, she was just, that's all she could think about. I believe she was in church and she just kept feeling the impression she needed to go, meet me.
Yeah.
And she eventually kind of just went out in the hallway. Obviously, she was probably crying. Mm-hmm. And the lady that she had met or that she was friends with that knew about me was like, hey, like, what's wrong? She's like, I just feel like I got to go meet this baby. And that day they decided to drive out and I don't remember who they met with. They might've met with just some of the people that were in charge of it. And
I would be curious to know who.
She wasn't expecting me to be there, but they brought me and she held me and she was like, this is my son. I need to have this kid. And 6 months later, I was sealed and adopted with them. So,
oh my gosh, that's so cool.
So super fun experience. I mean, I was glad it happened. So I love the family I'm in. So,
well, that's always good.
Yeah, that's good.
I love that. Having 11 kids and then adopting. That's your mom's a saint. I want to meet her. I bet she is awesome. I would love to bring her in. I would love to have her on the podcast.
Yeah, it'd
pick
be
her
fun.
brain.
I would love to have her come in. I think she would like it. So.
Yeah, give us some parenting tips.
Were you placed with the family at 6 months after? Or did you have to stay in like transitional care until all their paperwork was done? Because that's like, there was a lot that would have to happen.
Yeah, I think that probably all went through. I'm not really sure on those details, but I just know that my mom wasn't originally looking, and then they just felt like it was a good fit and felt like that's what it was supposed to be, and
so cool.
That's what happened in the end.
I think it sounds like he was already in transitional care.
That's what I was thinking too.
In order for someone to bring.
Mm-hmm.
We've done that many times.
Yeah.
If there was a child, because we used to use a lot more than we do now. Transitional care.
It seems like it
goes in like spurts.
Mm-hmm.
But we would bring. In fact, that's how Shari found her son. Remember?
Oh yeah,
they brought him
into the meeting.
Yeah. And she felt it. She held him and said, "Oh, this is mine." Had to quit working.
So transitional care. Yeah. Transitional care is someone. Now, since I've been here, it's been somebody that works for the adoption agency.
Yes.
And they have to be certified and they have to have certain credentials.
They have to have a homestay and everything. Just like if you're going to adopt.
And they can take care of the baby. Mm-hmm. So that way the baby's not put into like a foster system.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually a really great resource for sure. But that's a neat story.
Yeah, it's really unique. And it was cool just because I was supposed to be born in Salt Lake. Mm-hmm. But I was born in Charleston, so I got flown here by the agency. And so it kind of changed the way that the adoption process went and me finding out about who my birth parents were and stuff like that.
That's true.
Yeah. So you said that you had a closed adoption, but you have met your birth mom and your biological brother.
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah. So tell us that story. How did you meet them? How did you get in contact with them.
Oh yeah, so it's kind of a long story, so you can cut in whenever you want.
You go for it. I'm excited. I'm gonna sit back and listen.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess growing up, it was always my mom said that at one point you said, "Oh, I'm adopted." I just never remember going through that phase.
Yeah.
But I also knew that I had a mom and a brother, and that was kind of hard because it was just like, okay, well, as a kid, I never really thought about it, but once I hit around junior high, I was kind of more like, okay, well, like, why was I adopted? Like, why was I the one that, got put up in this situation? Even though it's a great situation, there's nothing I could complain about.
That's valid, yeah.
But it was just kind of like that. And do you guys know the movie Meet the Robinsons?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that movie for a while, and then I disliked it because of the chance he had to meet his birth mom, and he knew he couldn't do it, and I was worried that was going to be my situation.
Right.
And so kind of from middle school on, I was like, okay, I'm going to meet her. I can't wait. My mom was always 1,000% supportive of me meeting her, and so I was kind of lucky there. Yeah. And so once I turned 18, that's when the agency was like, okay, like, yeah, you can, once you contact us, we'll be able to ask her if she's willing to, share her name and everything. Mm-hmm. And so I remember when I turned 18, I was super excited, really, really stoked about this opportunity because I had a ton of questions.
Yeah.
And I remember we sent out the papers or sent out whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And I remember, I don't know how long it took, but I came home one day and my mom's like, no answer. So I was like, okay, that's dumb in my head.
Yeah, that's a bummer. Yeah.
High school teenager Isaac being annoyed with that. Not even right in my mind. But I was annoyed and honestly a little mad about it because in my head, I was being selfish, obviously, because I wanted answers for myself. Mm-hmm. But I mean, after listening to your guys' podcast and hearing just parents who've given up kids for adoption, how hard it is to do like closed adoptions.
Yeah.
It to me now, I'm like, I'm glad that high school Isaac did not get his way because I was just being totally selfish and just wanted stuff for me. I just wanted my answers.
That's fair though.
I was gonna say, I want that for you. I'm a birth mom. I'm like, I want that for you. You deserve that.
Yeah.
Sometimes the answer is not even like, no, we won't. No, we don't want to meet you. But a lot of times, at the agency, when we try to find people, addresses are no longer existing. Or phone numbers are. So it's a little bit harder of a process. But I think high school Isaac should have had, what he wanted. But I think probably the time and the wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'm honestly really grateful it did not. In a weird way, I'm grateful it didn't happen then because, again, I was only worried about my feelings, not my mom's feelings of how it would feel to have, someone you gave birth to, you carried in the womb for that long and gave up to a different family.
Seen or heard,
And so I was pretty mad, and my mom, again, great support, and she was like, well, we'll just try again in a few weeks. Tried again, didn't get an answer. So at that point, I was ready to just cut it off, and I was like, oh, young Isaac, you're never going to get an answer there. Like, she didn't love you, like this and that, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, as a high school student, I think we all kind of go through that. But then when you have to deal with something so huge and so heavy, I can't even imagine how you're feeling.
It was hard because my mom and birth mom had actually written letters back and forth.
Really?
And it wasn't like super detailed, but it was just her checking in. Mm-hmm. And so I think leading up to being 18 was like, oh, she like really cares. She wants to know about me. Right. But then I got rejected. And so it's just like, well, not rejected. Sorry, wrong
rejected.
word. Yeah. It felt rejected.
I have a question. Absolutely. Because with what you're saying, it sounds more like a semi-open more than it does a closed. Because how did your adoptive mom know that you had a sibling? A brother.
So that was my brother. So he's older than me. So,
so how did your adoptive mom know that?
So
because on a closed adoption, no information is given. So no siblings, no nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So your adoptive mom would have gotten
a little bit of,
medical, but that's about it.
Yeah. So
And then they exchange letters.
Yeah, so in those letters is where they would actually include, my mom would send photos of me to her, and she would send photos of my brother to me.
Okay.
And so I had a baby picture of him.
So it must have been some teeny bit of open.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so at that point, I was kind of like, I'm done with this. Like, I'm not going to try to. But again, my mom being so supportive of it, we ended up actually, she asked, I think my nephew, because again, I have a big family. So when I came to the family, I already had like 6 nieces and nephews.
You were already an uncle?
At that point, So I was an uncle at that point.
Can I hold baby Isaac?
Yeah, exactly.
Uncle Isaac.
Yeah. That's how my family works. My family's the same way. So I totally am on that page.
Yeah. So, and at that point, we asked my nephew, who's really smart. My mom reached out and she's like, hey, like, Isaac really wants to know who they are, like, because he obviously has not been able to get contact. Here's his mom's name. Here's his like brother's initials or name. Yeah. And that's all we have. We know they're from like South Carolina, and that's all we have. And I think it was only a few hours later, he texted me and he's like, I got it. Like, and he sent me their Facebook profiles. And I looked at them and my mom's like, that's her. Like, you look like her. And that's got to be your brother. And even then, right then, I did not message her. I stopped and I was like, no, it doesn't feel right. She looks happy. She looks like she loves my brother more than me. Again, I was kind of mad about it. Yeah. And so fast forward a few years, I had just, so I waited like 3 or 4 years after high school. I had went and seen Avengers Endgame. And sorry if it's a spoiler, but it was just kind of Tony Stark.
It's been out long enough.
You're good.
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute. So
that's cute.
Yeah, but Tony Stark leaves a message for his daughter because he didn't know if he was going to make it or not. And at the end of that movie, I was like, you know what? Life's way too short. I got to do something about this. And so I'd seen my brother's Instagram and stuff, but I hadn't messaged him or anything. And then a few days after that movie, this is kind of crazy, he followed me on Instagram. And so
he found you.
Well, that's what I thought. And I was freaking out. I took screenshots. I was so excited. I was honestly probably jumping for joy. Yeah. And he didn't message me. And I was just like, what is going on here? I was like, there's something with the fates or something. I got to fix this. And so
he was probably so scared.
He that's what I thought.
Even wondered if you knew who he was. Like, there probably was so much, you know.
And that's what makes this funny, because I decided finally, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna message him. So I crafted a huge message, probably corrected it a billion times, feeling like, okay, I gotta make sure I word this right. I sent it to him late at night and went to sleep, turned off my phone because I was like, I don't want an alert or anything.
Yeah.
The next morning I woke up and it was the funniest message. I opened it up. He had messaged back, and I essentially told him we were brothers. And in the message back, he goes, "Birth brothers, huh? Like, why do you think that?" And I was like, oh, this is the wrong person. Like, there's no way this is him.
Yeah.
And of course I messaged my mom, and she was like, no, that's him. Like, that's your brother. And I was like, okay. So I started asking him questions, probably creepy. I was like, well, your mom's name is this, right?
I'm all about it.
Yeah.
I'm all about it. Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, that's my mom's name. And I'm like, and this is your dad's name, right? And he was like, yeah. And I was just like, you're from here, right? And he was like,
oh my
yeah.
gosh.
And he was like, how do you know this? And I was like, we're brothers. Like, I don't know how else to tell you. You know?
I told you.
And he was like, do you have anything else to like prove this? And I was like, I got baby photos. So I sent that to him, again, creepy from a stranger. And
but so he really had no idea.
He didn't know who I was.
Oh my
God.
That's what was amazing about it, is he randomly followed me one day. And I've even asked him about that, and he's like, I don't remember. You just came up and I followed you. So
okay, that's a higher power moment right there.
That is
crazy.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So we finally, I sent him pictures, and I told him, like, you know, everything at least I knew.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, well, I'm going to need a day or two to think about this. And I was like, okay.
I'm sure.
Okay. And
so how old were you at this point?
23. 23.
Okay, so it's like 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. Okay. And how older? How much older is your brother than you?
He's 3 years older than me.
Okay.
So he's a little bit older. So he's mature at this age. So it was kind of surprising. And then again, I was like, oh man, this can't be the guy.
Yeah. It'd be hard to imagine that in a situation like that, that you would be the one with most of the knowledge.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Isn't that funny?
Well, it's like his biological mom really kept a good secret, it sounds like. Well, but that could be why she didn't want to reach out to you, because she hadn't told your brother.
And was she and your birth father still together?
No, so I believe they separated a little while after I was adopted. So it was just my mom and him. And so at that point I was like, oh, I broke the bridge, but hey, at least I tried. And then the next day, it was the best. It was one of the best days of my life. He messaged me, and it was just a bunch of questions like, do you get a mustache? You have hair on your chest? Like this and that. Like, I can't wait to talk to you. Like, because it was just him in that family.
Right. So now he has a brother.
A little younger brother. Because I do have some half siblings, but I don't know the situation there, but he was super excited, and he's like, hey, like, here's mom's number. She said you can reach out whenever you want to. And so at that point I was like, okay, finally, like, I can finally get answers again.
Yeah.
And I messaged her, and she calls me AJ because that was the name they were going to give me. So we kind of just connected a little bit. It was just kind of short messages, just like, I love you back. Let's call, like, let's talk. And it was kind of short like that. And then eventually we were like, well, we want to meet you. And so that was a fun experience as well.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so where did you meet?
We met in Charleston. So where they're from.
So you flew out there?
Yes.
Okay. Did you go by yourself?
No, my mom came with me. And so that's what made it fun. The flight so we had a layover in Georgia. And the whole flight there, I was fine. Well, I felt like I was fine.
Yeah.
And then from Georgia to South Carolina, that was the worst hour flight I've ever been on.
Why?
Just the emotions of everything. Just like
playing in your head.
Looking at younger me, it's like, hey, you're finally like gonna do this. You've been thinking about this for years.
So long.
Like,
and
did you cry?
Oh, absolutely. There was no way I didn't.
I want to cry right now.
I know.
Like shaking.
And I was trying to look out the window, but my mom mentioned it after. She was like, man, you were not okay on that flight. And I was like, I know, it sucked. Like, I did not like that.
Yeah.
And so we landed, and it was, I think, 8:39 at night. And my mom's sitting there bumping me like, hey, text them. Like, tell them we're here. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, I don't want to. I want to meet them tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I texted her, and she instantly replied back, hey, we're coming, like, to your hotel room. And I was like, oh, please no.
So
like,
she came to you. They probably sat by that phone.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, just like waiting
I bet
for
it
you
was
to
the
come.
longest hour for them.
For sure.
For sure.
Yes.
It was a long
night.
a long time. And then, so we went to our hotel room and kind of unpacked, and I was just sitting there like, please say they don't want to come tonight. Just out of nerves.
Yeah.
Of course.
But they texted us 20 minutes later, and they're like, hey, we're here. And I was just like, oh, like, I'm not ready for this. And took a long walk down to the lobby. And I just remember sitting there watching people come in and out. And I was just like waiting for like a connection or something. Kept seeing people come through. And finally, I saw my brother, because I'd seen him a few times, and I saw him come through, and I was like, well, that's my brother. And then my mom came in right behind him. But it was weird because I was like, there's no connection. Like, I felt love to her, but it was just like,
it wasn't like an aha moment. Yeah. That you're expecting.
And there were no tears. It was kind of weird, but we hugged, sat down, talked, and we were just like, okay, like, what are we going to do for the next day or two while you're here?
Yeah.
And for the next 2 days, it was honestly really amazing. Like, a lot of my like fears and stuff of like feeling loved by her were kind of solved right there, because we would just kind of walk around Charleston, just enjoy the views and stuff like that. And my biological mom would like walk with me forward, and my brother and my mom would sit there and talk, and it just kind of worked out. They let us have our time, and we just enjoyed every minute of it. And honestly, and then at the end, that's where I got pretty emotional. Where she asked me, because she was like, if there's anything you want to ask me, and I could tell she was inferring to the adoption.
Yeah.
She's like, I'll give you any answer. And I was at that point, that the answer I needed was just to know that she loved me And I kind of got that reassurance all throughout the trip. And so I was like, I just broke down crying because I was like, I don't need an answer because I got my answer right here. So
I love that.
It was a good experience.
Told myself I wasn't going to cry, so I'm holding it together.
And I didn't bring in any tissues.
I know, we need tissues.
So,
oh my gosh.
I think you raised a good point, is that there wasn't any emotion when she walked in the door. And I think a lot of people would appreciate hearing that because we have met a couple of people who were going to be reaching or meeting their biological families. And sometimes things aren't as big and overwhelming in the moment. And so I think if somebody is like doubting a mother's love or their own love, I think that's a really good thing to hear from you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That it's not like the movies. It's not like all fireworks.
Exactly.
I was hoping it would be like the movies. I was hoping it'd be like, run and jump in her arms, music playing in the background, like my favorite
guys
song.
Are playing basketball together.
Yeah, exactly like that. And it was nothing like that, but it was even better. So I'd take
even
that.
Better. We'll take it. What were there similarities? What did you notice about your mom immediately that you're like, that's where I get it?
There was a lot of like little quirks. I mean, she was super excited because I guess I have her ears and her teeth, but the issue was I had braces, so my teeth are straight, but I had a big gap when I was little, and I was like, yeah, my teeth looked like that when we were little. Yeah. Just a lot of little things like that, a lot of different, just like, I don't know, it was just like simple movements and stuff like that. It was just, it was interesting to see the connection there, and it was just kind of slowly we became like a bond between us. So I loved it.
What about you and your bro?
That was fun too. I mean, with him, I felt bad because on the trip I was with my mom a lot because I felt like she was just really excited to finally have me out there.
Oh yeah,
fair, sure.
But me and him would sit there and randomly talk, and it was just a lot of similar, at least likes and dislikes. He obviously has a better beard than me, so I was jealous of that. But
obviously, we haven't seen it.
It's a great beard, and I'm really jealous of it. But it was just kind of a lot of just simple things, just simple, same interests. We both like sports, both like music. He has a way better singing voice. And so just other things like that. And so.
Oh, I love that.
Are you going to see him again?
Oh, I hope so. We were hoping this year they would come out. But we just kind of there's been a lot of stuff going on.
Right.
So
Right. People are busy.
I hope to get out there because I want to go see him again.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Did they show you like around where they lived and was that like, wow?
Yeah, it was
this could have been me.
Yeah, it was super cool because the area she grew up actually in a time with segregation. And so I thought there would be a little tension between her and my mom, but she never showed any tension, and it was all love the whole time. But we got to see her school, her church, like the little store she used to go to, the little drugstore for food and stuff like that. And so we kind of just got to see all those sites, and we ran into a few people who were friends, and they were like, cool. Oh, like that kid looks like you. And she's like, yeah, it's my son. And so it was just fun
really
like that.
Neat.
I love that
so
much.
What about your adoptive mom? Like how has that impacted her? Like how has this whole thing impacted your adoptive family?
I mean, she was so amazing during all of it because she, again, I feel like adoptive moms or people who've given up kids for adoption probably feel that pain where it's like, I raised that kid all that life.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
It's like, I don't want him to go like, want that family more. But I mean, me and my mom actually talked before I came here, and she was like, have you ever felt that about me? And I was like, no, you've always like
You're my
fully
mom.
supported, like, that. And if anything, after that trip, it just made my love bigger for you because it felt like that's how it was supposed to be. And so
I love
you
that.
have a really good energy.
Yes, he does.
Like you just make this room happy.
Oh my gosh, I know. I love it.
I
can feel
the
it.
way that you talk about your mom and your adoptive family is so refreshing and so great to hear. And I love it. I really love it. I love that what she gave you.
Yeah.
That freedom to be you and explore and you love her even more because of it. I don't know. I'm like so touched.
Yeah. I know. Seriously. That's how I feel too.
Thank you.
Yeah. So your birth father.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about him?
I don't know much about him, and it's kind of weird because the family, obviously my adopted the family I'm in,
Yeah.
My dad wasn't ever really in the picture in my family. That my parents divorced when I was young. And so I felt like there's always been a disconnect between me and wanting to know him.
Sure.
And I've always just wanted to know my mom because that's all I've ever kind of had.
Yeah.
And so that's been the main thing.
Your mom.
Yeah, I know. I was like, hold on.
Yeah.
Was a single mom with 12 children?
Well, they were going through the battle of when they adopted me because my dad was there when I got adopted, but they were kind of going through the process of knowing it was going to separate. And so.
Wow.
Yeah.
I need to meet your mom. I have to meet her at this point.
I will tell her to come in because I think she would love it.
No, I would love to talk with her. Yeah. I can't imagine. I think about like being a single mom with 4 kids. I love you, Ryan. But like, it's, wow, 12 kids. She's a saint. I love her already.
Yeah, she's a great person. So
that's awesome. So so you never, do you have a relationship with your adoptive dad?
I have not even spoken to him yet. And
Really?
It's kind of interesting. I don't know why there's a disconnect there. I mean, over the last like month, I've kind of asked my mom a little more about him and kind of gotten a little more, but I don't know why it hasn't felt like it's the time to reach out yet. But it's just kind of, I've always been hesitant on it and I don't really get why. And so I've kind of just not done anything about it, which probably isn't a smart idea. I probably should reach out, but
no, I think it's fine. I mean, everyone's different.
I feel like you're so instinctive.
Yeah,
I mean,
you are.
I'm trying to be.
You are.
You obviously are. I mean, for you to have the phone number and Facebook and all that information and wait a couple years until you feel like it's right, you'll know when it's right.
Yeah, for sure. So,
is it like that for the rest of your
I was going to ask that.
siblings?
I'm sorry.
In your adoptive family, do any of them have a relationship with your father?
So my brother kind of does, but I don't know if it's the best relationship because every time I've asked about it, it obviously seems like a sour spot. And so to me, it's just kind of, I feel like it's out of respect that I'm just cautious about it.
Oh, of course.
But you're close with all your siblings.
Yeah. Well, most of them, at least the ones closer to my age.
Yeah. That's true. My family's like that too.
Yeah. I'm the oldest of 12 as well, but we have mixed families.
Really? There we go.
Yeah, we're all mixed. But okay, so you don't have a relationship with your adoptive dad, and you've never met your birth dad, right? Is there any are you wanting a relationship with your birth dad at all? Is there any, what's the word?
Or you want to meet him?
I do want to meet him. I don't know what it is that's holding me back, but I mean, my birth mom always mentions you look like him, you do a lot of things that are similar to him. So I guess that's what keeps me interested in it.
Sure.
But I know I want to reach out to him and, know.
Are they on terms? Do they talk at all or?
I don't know if they talk. He remarried. So I do have half siblings, I guess, on that side, but I don't know anything about them. So I just kind of tried to respect my mom's feelings about it, but she's been super once you want to meet him, you should do it. And so
and he knows about you, right?
So he knows that I don't know if he knows where I am now, but he knew about me. He was there at the birth and so.
Okay.
Does your biological brother have a relationship with your biological dad?
I don't think so. I don't think it's that. If they do, it's not very big. He sent me pictures of him when I've asked, but I don't think there's very much there. So you at least know what he looks like a little. Yeah. So I have pictures of him and stuff like that. So
okay, that's good.
So there's still, I mean, you have a lot to explore when you're ready.
Yeah.
And you have a lot to ingest. Yeah. There's a lot. That's pretty big. Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot more to come.
So I know you want to go back there. Do you want to go back there first, or do you want them to come back?
I would love for them to come out here just because of how many people I've told about them and stuff like that.
I'm at the point now where I want to meet them.
Yeah. And so I'd love, all my siblings have been super supportive. They want to meet them.
Oh, I'm sure.
But I've just they're a little shyer. So it's just I've kind of been okay,
Well, they've just had each other.
Yeah.
They're not used to a whole big.
Family.
Yeah. Were their grandparents around? Does your mom have her family? Your biological mom.
Oh, yeah. So they have family around and stuff like that.
But you didn't meet them?
No, I haven't met them yet, no. Because those 3 days were kind of just like, I think it was her time and my brother's time. So that's all we did is just hung out with each other.
Oh, I totally get that.
And
3 days is not enough.
That's why it's not.
What was it? Was it so overwhelming you're like, I'm ready? Or...
It was almost like I wasn't ready to leave, but it felt those 2-3 days felt like a week.
Yeah.
Just because of how much we were just all together and just kind of talking.
I think you were exhausted.
I was really tired, but I also didn't want to leave. So.
Oh my gosh.
I understand that.
When you got back in the plane with your adoptive mom, were you like, oh my gosh.
Of course she was asking a bunch of questions like, how are you feeling? It was just like, good. Like I couldn't really put it into words of how I felt at the moment. So
I think about as a mom wanting to ask my kids questions, and they're a little bit younger than you, but I have a 22-year-old, and before I ask a question, I always like role play with myself in my head, like, okay, how is he going to take this? What is he going to say? Because we're so worried about, how they're going to react. How you're going to respond. I can only imagine your mom being like,
especially in that moment.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe I need to do more role playing in my head before I talk.
I only do it with my son, and I should do it more as well. But with my son, I'm really.
Sometimes I do, but not.
Yeah. Well, of all my kids, he can just give me a look, and I'll feel bad.
Oh yeah.
Of all my kids, my other ones are more vocal, but he will look at me like. And I'll be like, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Well, and I think it's hard because me growing up, I didn't talk, like, I didn't share my feelings a lot. So a lot of this that my mom found out once we met them was like, you've never, like, mentioned that. And it was just like, I just didn't want to, I guess.
Yeah,
so
didn't have the
stuff like that.
On a day-to-day, it's not like you think about, talking probably the way that you talked with your birth mom.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure that you shared some things that are just another level,
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
I have my youngest son's quiet like that too. He does not talk very much. I have to hound him.
Really?
Yeah. But being an adoptive mom, because that's I've adopted 4, but we want you to talk.
I believe that.
We want to know how you're feeling, and that's the thing is that I think we've said in another podcast. I've learned so much with we have a meeting that we have every month, and I've learned a lot of that, and I'll go home and I'll ask my kids individually different questions to make sure they're good, and what can I do more to help you if that's what you want. And I think that's good for your mother was so supportive, because I think that's a huge thing, and it is for an adoptive mom, it is kind of hard.
I believe that.
So because the gift we were given, we wanted so badly.
Yeah.
And then you have this fear of it could get taken from you. It's not real, but in our minds, it feels that way. So, and that's something we have to work out. It's not your guys' job to do that. So,
well, I also think it's hard because, like, an adopted, I don't want to call us a wild card, but we're kind of a wild card because it's a kid that you're adopting. Like, you don't know anything about, their personalities and stuff.
That's so true. Yeah. I've got 4 with all 4 different personalities. But I think that's a given with any family, biological.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
For sure.
I mean, you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
So do you have any advice for people who are going to, who are in the situation you were in? Like for
meeting your birth
mom. Is there something that, like, some little thing that you think might help or inspire or?
I would say do it honestly, because I have not regretted it. I know not all the situations are the same, and you might not get your same answers. And I didn't get the answers I thought I was going to get. I got better ones, but honestly, life's too short. So you never know what could happen the next day. So honestly, if you're looking to reach out, I would reach out, because you just don't know what it's going to be like. So,
and for birth parents, do you have any advice for a birth parent when putting up a child for adoption? Like, do you think, is there something that you wish maybe you had at your disposal to make it easier for you to find your parents? Or is there anything like that a birth parent or somebody putting a child up for adoption might think about when they're making this decision?
I love that question.
Honestly, that might be hard for me, because for my birth mom, you know, doing a kind of closing the book. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it's hard for me to say what they should do because, again, I've never been pregnant, obviously, but I can't imagine the idea of having a child and saying, okay, I'm going to give this to someone else and close it, like closing the chapter. Cause I think that is very hard because then it's like, well, they might not ever ask about me or ever think about me. And so for a parent, I think just if the child ever reaches out that you've given up for adoption, just I think being open with them is really important. And the fact that my birth mom was so open and ready to answer anything kind of just helped me realize that she loved me. And that was the biggest question I had the whole time. So,
I think that is so important was it more of her actions that made you feel love, or did she say it a lot? Like, how did you feel it? Yeah, she always constantly said, I love you. And like, you look so handsome and stuff like that. But I think it was just more actions. It wasn't her I could tell she wasn't going out of her way to do things to make it seem like she loved me. It was just naturally, it felt like she actually genuinely cared about me. Yeah. And so those were the actions that kind of like reassured me. It was like, this is who she is. She's not changing to impress you. This is who she is. Right. Cool. That's authentic.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
And I think that most birth moms are that way. They love you.
Oh yeah.
That's why they're doing it. But I think that gets lost. I don't know how you let the child know that.
Yeah.
Unless they were able to experience that with the birth mom.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter when the adoptive parent says, your birth mom loves you. And that's why they did it. You know what I mean? It's not the same as actually experiencing it yourself.
And that's why I'm glad that it happened later in my life. Because at 18, again, even if she had told me that, I might not have believed her, especially after finding Facebook and seeing them happy. It was like, it doesn't seem like she loves me.
Right, yeah. So,
but,
What did you, like, when you looked at the Facebook page, what did you want to see? I mean, if you didn't want to see them not to say that you didn't want to see them happy.
That's a good question.
You know, but what did you kind of expect?
I was hoping, so when I first looked it up, I was hoping they were happy, but not like happy.
Like thriving.
I wanted them to be in a good situation, but I wanted it to feel like, they're still, they think about me every day. Yeah. But in the photos, not that they weren't thinking that, but they just looked genuinely happy. They were with my grandparents and stuff like that. And so it's just like, they kind of just forgot about me. That's what it felt like.
Isn't social media strange in that way?
Yeah. Oh, it's so,
I mean, it's so, like, just unassuming. You think that you just can see it all in a picture.
And you can.
There are people that I look at that I don't necessarily want them to look happy.
Yeah.
Social media is that's a whole
deceiving.
That's
a whole thing.
It is. I'm so glad you came on.
I'm so grateful to be on.
Yeah, that we had those connections and that you know Isaac. What's Isaac's daughter's name?
Maddie. She was the one that mentioned this podcast to me, so shout out to Maddie.
Yeah. Hi, Maddie. I want to meet Maddie.
I wonder if that's so. Maddie, one of his daughters loves the podcast. And listens to all of them.
Yeah.
Is that Maddie?
Yeah, she's the one, because we worked together. That was funny because we worked together for 2 years and I didn't know I didn't know her last name. And there was just one day we were driving and she was like, I don't know why she mentioned, she's like, my dad's name's Isaac. And I was like, your last name's Thomas. And I was like, do I know? I was like, I only know one person like that, because she would always say, my dad's crazy. He's the black guy. We don't look the same. And I saw a picture and I was like, I know him. Like I've seen him before. Like I've met him. And so that was kind of fun. I was like, you're his daughter? And I was like, I guess I should have known that. But
that's so cool.
That's
we
what
love Isaac.
Always says his kids don't look like him.
Yeah, it's fair.
I mean,
they don't. Well, they don't.
I've never seen his
one is like
daughters.
really tall.
Do you know? I don't think I've seen Isaac's kids.
Oh, I haven't either.
I don't think I have.
So he has one that was a basketball player, and him and his wife are both really short, and his son was like almost 7 feet or something.
Yeah.
And
Really
so
darling.
he always tells a story about at graduation. His wife and him were next to a son and it's in the middle, and they look like they were hobbits. Or standing in like a really deep hole.
That's so funny.
That's so cute.
I love it.
So, but when he came, he was so small. He was in like a a Christmas stocking. That's how small the baby was. And he sprouted.
Yeah, and now he's 7 feet.
Yeah. That's he
awesome.
talks about genes. You don't know what you're getting.
No.
Yeah, that's
In the
true.
long run, you can look at something and it says, "Oh, okay, well they're going to match in our family, height wise and stuff." And then all of a sudden, something jumps in from like way back down the
Generations,
line.
yeah.
That's like, hello.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah,
All my kids look so similar, but so different. They all have like their own look.
yours look really similar, except the last one.
Well, let's not talk about that. He was,
I know.
he was a vasectomy baby. I'm just
hysterical.
kidding.
Or the milkman.
I promise,
Yeah,
Ryan,
not
it's yours.
I'm just kidding.
It's
So
yours.
I've asked
what
it
are you
before.
doing
I know.
now? What?
Yeah.
I'm working. Hopefully, I'm moving to Arizona to go to school to become an ultrasound tech. So,
A sonographer?
Wait,
Yeah.
that's what I want to do.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
That
So,
would be really fun.
I'm excited about it. So, should be a
That's
fun
awesome.
journey.
Yeah, I love Arizona too.
It's
Well,
really
maybe you
hot
could come
there,
back
though.
It's
here
really hot.
and work with the hospitals that we work
I would
for. Work
love
with.
to. I would
Ooh.
love
Oh,
to
that
do
would be
that.
nice.
Honestly,
Yes.
We had a birth mom that needed to go in and have not just like the gender reveal, but
Mhm.
a
A full-
ultrasound, and it was so cool to watch. I mean, what they can identify in those
Yeah.
Oh,
pictures
yeah.
I
and the
know.
things that they can see.
The measuring.
Good for you.
Yeah,
Yes.
so that's
That'll
the
be
goal.
a fun
So,
profession.
yeah, I'm
Good.
excited about it.
Good. Well, are there any final words that you would like to share?
Shout out to you adopted parents because you guys are amazing. Especially you guys have inspired me to want to adopt because I definitely want to adopt eventually at some point. I think it'd be
Yes.
fun and I think it's a good thing to have. So
Yeah, good.
That's good.
Well, I think you're going to do amazing things. I
I
apologize.
I hope so.
No,
You have that vibe.
Oh,
you
yeah.
Are gonna,
Thank
you
you.
are going
Yeah, we
to
love
well,
you.
it was
touch a lot of
surprising that
people.
you were quiet
Oh.
because I don't get that from
I was
you
gonna say, I
at
feel like
all.
you would be super outgoing.
I
Yeah.
think that's what my mom was always wondering because she's like, you're always social, but then when I want to ask you stuff, you are
Yeah.
just
You're just
silent.
closed
And
book.
it's
Shuts
just-
down.
and I don't know if that was just something I just developed or if that's just how I am, but
Yeah.
I think it's important to share what you're feeling. And so now I've kind of gotten
Now
a
you're
little bit
ready.
better at it.
No,
So
that's
Yeah.
good. That's good. You've gotten better.
That's
So I do have a question. I'm
Absolutely.
assuming, and I shouldn't assume,
no, you're good.
but was your adopted mom white or
Yeah.
Caucasian?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you feel like being raised here by a white woman?
Mm-hmm.
Has that been an issue? Because we've had other people on the podcast
Mhm, yeah.
with transracial, so I'm just
Yeah.
curious. My 4 are African American
Yeah.
too, so I'm like, I'm curious
Yeah.
to know how. But mine are older.
Yeah.
So they'll tell me straight
Yeah.
up now. But
Yeah.
how your experience was
Right now, doesn't bother me at all.
Okay, good.
I love it. But
Okay.
middle
It's
school
harder.
Middle school me was a punk. And so then it's like, well, I wish I was raised this way so I could, have an
Yeah,
accent or,
okay, yeah.
no more slang. But
Yeah.
now it's like my mom's the best. Like why
Okay.
would I want it different? So
Okay.
Oh, I love that
That's
answer. Yeah.
That's a very
You know
good
what?
answer.
That's great.
yeah.
You know,
It's
I
refreshing.
think that it's so nice to hear
Yes.
that it was a good
Upbringing.
life,
Yeah.
and I can tell just by the things you've said, you are like beyond grateful for
Yeah.
her.
You love her,
Absolutely.
Yeah, you
And,
can feel
yeah, it's just
Yes.
your love for her.
that makes me so happy to hear.
Mhm.
Yeah, me too.
Me too.
Way to go!
I know,
Go,
good job,
Isaac.
Isaac.
Thank you.
We love you.
Yeah,
Way to
you
go,
are
your
absolutely
mom
darling.
too.
Yeah, no,
she did
shout
a
out
great
to
job.
Shauna.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
she did a great job with you.
Really amazing.
All
I want
right.
to hear more. When you'll have to come back and share when
Absolutely,
you
I'd love
met
to.
met the other family members.
Maybe if you're sorry, I just cut you off.
No, I'm glad.
I've been doing
I'm
this
glad
this
you
whole
did.
time.
No, so
I'm
glad.
sorry. If your birth, I'm so glad. You're so happy that I just cut you
so
off.
glad you did.
You're welcome.
That's what we do here.
Sorry, I'm just really excited about this idea, okay? If your birth mom and your biological brother come into town, we should do one with the 3 of you.
I would love to do that. I would hope they would love to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
she's social. He's a little shy, but I think
Yeah.
they would love to share stuff.
that
So
would be
Okay,
great.
that'd be awesome.
And that you can
We'll stay
come
in
back
contact.
with your mom.
I
too,
would
your
love to.
adoptive
Oh,
mom.
yeah.
Oh,
We'd
maybe
love
we'll
that.
fill all 4 seats.
We'll just
Yeah,
we'll
there's
just
a
keep
lot of
going with you. There's a
us.
lot we could do. So
We
we'll talk.
could sit over there and ask the questions while you guys are just.
Oh
all
yeah,
on
there you
camera.
go. I like that idea. I love
Judge
that
and
idea.
jury, I like it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Isaac.
Absolutely.
No,
It's
thank
been a
you.
pleasure.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.